Hi.
Oh, Robert should be coming with his phone, and I'm expecting a new person today too. I've been onboarding new people, and that's a challenge. I don't know. It's just confusing for folks. So I get tons of questions. Oh, there's our new person. There's Kurt. I don't know if you know Kurt Krueger, if you've seen him other places.
If there's ever any way I can be of assistance to you, let me know.
Oh, okay.
Because
Okay.
it's obvious I like interacting with people.
Yes, there's Kurt. Hi, Kurt.
How
You've
are you,
got Colorado
Kathryn?
Mountains. Is that Colorado behind you?
Yeah, that's good old Boulder, the Flatirons.
Yeah, no, I used to live there. So yes, I do.
Um,
Yeah, you lived there in the 60s, and I went to school there, Boulder.
Yeah, okay.
Kurt, have you been to Gold Hill?
Gold Hill, that sounds
Yeah.
so familiar. I
Yeah,
had,
it's north of Boulder.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
I went. I went to Colorado and stayed a few weeks, and I went to Gold Hill when the little town was just waking up, and you could hear the horses whinnying and the doors opening, and it was beautiful.
yeah.
And there was a wonderful restaurant there.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. It was on the road, so it was easy to stop.
nice. Well, it impressed my soul, and
It sounds like it if it's so many years later, yeah.
yeah.
There was a little place called the Red Lion just up the Golden Boulder Canyon. And I don't know how many miles up it was, but it had incredible food. It was run by a Swiss couple, and boy,
Yeah, I was staying at Estes Park.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
So you have for CSU instead of down near Boulder. Yeah.
And I went up Trail Ridge Road. It scared the shit out of me.
Wait till you get over to Nepal.
What? Say it again?
In Nepal, I mean, you have cliffs. I mean, it's not quite as bad as this one road that's in Bolivia, I believe it is. I mean, it's like a lane and a half, and and sometimes there'll be openings for 2 lanes, and it is sheer cliff of 1,000 feet drops, and so on. Yeah.
Yeah. And no edge, no road or
No,
gate or
no border, no
no.
barriers or anything. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's when I get weak.
Yeah,
Oh,
you don't
here's
have
Robert.
the cojones.
What?
You don't have the cojones, that's for sure.
No, not in that situation. Oh, well, welcome.
Well, thank
Yes.
you. It's good to meet you in person. I think we're friends on Facebook, but I got a lot of friends I've never seen before on Facebook.
I don't do. I'm really not on
Hello.
Facebook. I mean, I'm on it, but I don't do it. Hi,
Yeah.
Robert. Good.
So,
Hi, honey.
Hey.
so
What
Robert,
about
this
you?
is Kurt Krueger. Kurt, Robert Kauffman.
Hey, Kurt.
Good to meet you, mate.
I saw you there for just a minute, but I'm on the phone, so I don't have the full picture.
Yeah. It's
I don't know if you hear this jet going over, but I'm in a flight path for Burbank Airport in the San Fernando Valley of Los Angeles.
Well, you don't look like you're in Burbank. I see mountains.
Yeah, that's actually the Flatirons in Boulder, but that's where I went to school. I can always switch for
Yeah.
exchange.
It's a good one.
I'll give you my favorite.
Yeah, I
picture.
used to live. That's a good one. I mean, oh, there we go. Sunflower.
Yeah.
Oh, my favorite.
Yeah, that was just
Yeah,
up.
well, I'm sitting at a trailhead. I pulled off the road so I could talk to you guys.
So where are you located, Robert?
He froze.
he,
In the Atlanta area.
Uh-huh. Near
Did
Stone Mountain?
I phrase or did you?
Yeah, you did.
Are you in Stone Mountain or where?
No, north of the city. I was coming back. I guess I have a very, very low signal.
Yeah, it's
You
like-
might want to take off your video, and then that way you'll have a better sound and everything.
How do I do that?
At the bottom on the left, you'll see
Look,
stop video.
he's on his phone,
Oh,
so
I don't,
it- so
And
that's
I like seeing his face.
yeah,
well-
yeah, but it
I'll
does
just listen.
all right.
No, you won't.
no, no.
You'll do more than that, I hope.
Yeah. Yeah, there is a place you have to kind of move around. And when you put your cursor at the top or the bottom, you see different things on your phone. So at one point there is a place to change your video. I have to do it. I can't tell you. I have to be on my phone too.
Yeah, stop. Okay, there we go.
Yeah. Phone takes a lot of finessing. Yeah. Oh.
Oh, well. It did
So
look
I-
like what you wanted, Robert, I'll tell you.
Come back, Robert, come back.
So I've been musing about agency
Yeah.
because at least I'm feeling an incredible amount of anxiousness about where we are and what we're doing or not doing. I'm also seeing people starting to really understand what we can do. And that's a conversation around water, actually. But the sense of helplessness and the sense of overwhelm and just really seems to be sapping people's ability to engage with situations.
That's what you want to talk about? That ain't what I want to talk about.
What do you want to talk about, Ani?
Talk about is our agency, is is us as nature, is us as very coherent and workable, and we can do something about it all.
Yeah, no,
That's
yeah.
what I want to talk about. Not I mean, I understand and accept what you're saying as true. You know, I'm not.
And there's no sense talking about it because you're talking about what doesn't work. So that's not very productive. Yeah.
Right, because I believe what Maturana and Varela and others are saying about we create reality by languaging. So what we have to say is what we get.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I try to be conscious of speaking in ways that empower, that clarify, that strengthen, that create what we desire from a heart full of compassion.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And certainly Kurt has spent his entire life in agency.
Well, I haven't let any moss grow under my feet, that's for sure.
Well, and that's been your whole thing, is getting people to accept their agency.
Totally, yeah.
So tell us, I don't know anything about you yet, and I want to, so I want to hear what Kathryn's referring to in your life and lifestyle and life work.
Well, my life has been as an educator all my life, from middle school, actually from about 16 months or whatever to people in their 80s and 90s, some sort of education. And the primary focus that I've had since the 70s has been on getting people to be peak performers in life. And one of the primary forces that guided me was a thing called meditation. And I had learned it from an incredible master that could awaken your Kundalini and gets you bouncing off the walls. Literally, I'm talking about literally. And I've seen it all over the world. I toured with him in Europe and in India and so on. And the dude was something else. And I call him the dude, but because he was a human being too. And he had his faults just like anybody. And pretty much every guru that I've ever met had some sort of a fault to them, and so, let him eat cake, because I'm not without sin, so I'm no cast of no stones. The meditation has led me into being able to teach people about peace, obviously. And Kathryn and I have been working a lot with Humanity Rising and other solutions and spreading the key elements of love and light to everybody. And I'm going to put into the chat a gift for you because it's crazy not to share empowering communications. And that's what we're talking about is being able to use the words that we have in a way that allows people to be all they can be, and not buying into any negative forces at all.
Yes.
It's like when I keep on telling my family, they are hooked on the news. And if you're watching the news, you're depressed. You're hooked into this view of life or that view of life, and all of it is military industrial complex guided, so to speak. We know that, and they actually know that. I'm talking to people that have been down on Occupy LA and walking across America for the climate and so on and so forth. They're not, but they have blinders on, and I can't spread their blinders quick enough, at least for me. They are moving those blinders a little bit, but they still watch MSNBC for hours, and they see the same thing: Trump, 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 or the whatever. So we get to be able to have our focus, our energy on getting that incredible love opening up in everybody to shine forth, to be free and happy. And when people are happy, it spreads. Like when you walk down the street and just simply smile and say hi. Again, Boulder, Colorado was in the background. When I went there, I'd say hi to anybody walking by me as I'm going to my class. And some of them would look at me like old weird Harold. Some would say hi back and keep on walking, and others would stop and would start talking.
Okay.
Cool.
I'd like I'd like to go back to when you started and you were making reference to a person that you learned from or followed or something. Who is that person?
Muktananda.
Yes, Swami Muktananda, and he was a Siddha master.
Yes, that's where we met.
He's a good one.
Yeah,
Yep.
he was a hell of a good one for us, the ones who got to meet him physically. But guess what, Ani? You get his darshan by having the darshan, the hangout with anybody who was touched by
Seeing
him.
his picture, you don't really. There's lots of ways.
His name again. Spell his name again, please.
Muktananda.
Right, of course.
And it means the bliss of freedom. And he wrote a book called The Play of Consciousness.
Oh.
And you look at that book, on the cover is what's called a Shaktipat picture.
Uh-huh.
I was there in Atlanta, Georgia in 74, winter of 74. We were in a beautiful mansion, hanging out with him for a while. And he had this picture that he had maybe a year or two before, but he told the guy, Siegel was his name, I forget his first name. Anyway, the guy who put a bindi on Muktananda's forehead. It had not been there in the original picture, but he's gazing at you with such intensity and love. But intensity and love, how do you combine that in a look? He did. And people he put that on what are called mantra cards. And if people wanted to be able to have a mantra when they came up to see him, somebody would hand him that card. and it would have Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya means I salute or I honor my inner self. It means that incredible consciousness. And people would repeat it, and they would get into meditation easily. They could, just looking at that, suddenly start shaking uncontrollably, and so on. It was a
Good, good. Okay, so I just I'm swallowing what you're saying. It's like, yes.
yeah,
And
that's it.
right.
Yeah, I can actually, I used to have that as a background to put onto my
Right.
Zoom screen, but my Zoom my computer got messed up, and it's still messed up. But I could put that in the background, and people, I'd be talking and they would be getting Shaktipat. But again, like I said about being with people that had known him, like Kathryn, she exudes this peace and this presence. And we allow the teachings to come through us as she does, bringing it into her life the way she's guided. Muktananda told me to do it. Bring this into your life. I started teaching sports psychology. First, I started teaching ghetto kids to meditate at the start of class. I didn't tell them meditation, but I guided them into meditation at the very start of class at one of the worst schools in America. And kids in that school, there were gangs, the four biggest gangs in America. The Crips and the Brims were the black gangs, and the Clanton and 18th Street were the Latino gangs. They were both at that school. There was a fight a day, a weapon a week. That's what I took away, a weapon a week. It was unreal at that school. And I had a whole closet full of these weapons. I'd lock them up because I didn't want the kids kicked out of school. I wanted them to come to school, meditate, learn some shit instead of what they'd learn out in the streets. So this is what we do. And Kathryn does it in a different way. I brought it into sports psychology. I brought it into businesses. I consulted with IBM and Pepsi and so on and so forth.
The nature of this gathering, I mean, I want to weave us a little bit more. I mean, I wish Robert would come on with his face. I just the
Handsome dude, huh?
yeah. I mean, the checking in is really important, and the sharing is really important, so we get to know each other. And this is such an opportunity to have I don't even know what to call it, a merging of hearts, a merging of minds, something fresh and new to come out of the collective that we are, that I love to experience. That's why this is called a deep dive. It's a collection of us mingling our thoughts and energies into something that is new for each of us. So,
Yeah, it's a mutual exploring, so it's not so much
sharing.
Sharing as a mutual exploring. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, because I know one of the things.
Well, but I can't. Evidently, my voice isn't coming through.
Oh, now you're fine. Now you're fine.
You're doing really good.
Okay, well, Kurt, I was just going to add that I think the nutshell of this is just to realize that there are no shrinking violets here. we project ourselves into our being projects into the conversation. That's why we keep doing this week in and week out. And that's why I keep coming back. And yeah, I met Muktananda 1970, I think it was, in New York for a period of a month, off and on. But I've seen some others. There's some beautiful teachers roaming this world.
Yep.
And I personally have immense, it's not even hope, just a real intention that I think I share with the world to come through this, you know, in large part because human beings, quantum mechanics has been showing us that human beings are creators. Of course, the ancient traditions have been telling us that for 4,000 years. And it's time that we begin to accept that. So I was going to say just a little bit a while ago, you were talking about people wanting to watch MSNBC, and it's a magnet. And I'm thinking, we all want to have our cake and eat it too. We want to sit and know the news, and we want to keep track of the world. And I think you're right. We have to be careful of that. At some point, we have to be totally responsible for the vibrational activity that we entertain within our consciousness. We can let it slide to watching someone like Trump, and it doesn't do anyone any good except for him. Give him our energy. We do have to be responsible for choosing carefully what we're going to pay attention to. I mean, I totally agree with that, and do it with love, because then I think the gates are wide open. People are very willing to work with us, to be with us, and that's what I've always found in this deep dive occasion that we do once a week, is that it's all. The invitation is put out, and there's 3 or 4 of us talking together, where we're simply able to view the world in a way that's totally creative.
I'd like to add about paying attention. We activate what we give our attention to.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's like it's a fine art. It's creative.
Well, it's like the physics experiment, the double slit, because when we focus on one thing, that's what we get. And
Exactly.
so energy is either the quote, the dark force, which there's
I think there's another worrying about the light and the dark force is, I think, another trap, frankly.
Yeah.
I think that and this is becoming more and more what I'm talking about, and that is facing the earth, really beginning to embrace the earth. We're doing so many things. We default so easily into doing stuff to try and solve our problems or to make us feel better or for whatever reason, but we don't really include the earth in how we're thinking and acting and relating to that. So changing the focus from sports to earth and still using agency, what would that look like? That gives a path and a direction that's really going to be useful now.
Yeah.
There's something about really being present now and saying truthfully where we are and what we're doing, instead of pretending that that's not real, but doing it with the security that life wants life loves life, and that by hanging on to life, understanding how it shows up, acting like it does, that agency will carry us forward. It will give us the wisdom that we need to be able to discern. And that's the kind of the touchstone. We're sitting too much in ourselves and thinking we can figure it out and that it's going to come from us and that we're the creators so we can do it. Well, we're the creators to do it in partnership. That's the piece that's been so missing. We're not in partnership. And so trying to shift our stance so that
we come together like this in satsang and
engaging with the earth.
Yes,
in satsang.
Every aspect. There's nothing that is not the earth, so to speak, because obviously it's all part of the cosmos and all that stuff, but we are all one. And
But we need to be really conscious of the earth because the earth needs us to do stuff for her.
oh, totally. We're all interactive, and so on. Yeah.
Yeah. It's, I think, even deeper than that, because the hard truth is that the earth needs cooling. There's just no way around that.
What?
Cooling. It needs to be cooler than it is. It is getting hotter and it's going to get hotter. And so we need to work on managing that. And that's part of paying attention to what do we do to make that happen? We can do things, but we're not paying attention to that. We're engaging ourselves in other things that are diversions, actually, from what's really being called for. There's so much that needs to happen now because living things take time. You have to work with time. You can't pretend that it's instantaneous or that I'll get to it later. We have to do things now in order to have them available later, because it takes time. So there's a sense of urgency that I haven't had before, that I am truly feeling now, that we really do need to engage with the earth quite literally now. Ani?
What's coming to me is inviting us to consider ourselves, this group of creators that we are, in a conscious coalescence of creating through languaging what we know wants to emerge, or what is emerging. I mean, we have the power to do that, and we can become a collective, a creative collective, thoughtfully share, with that as what we're doing, not just talking about what we know or what we've learned or who said what or who did what, but becoming a conscious, creative coalescence of awareness of life as life. We are autopoetic. Life is self-generating. And to be a consciously self-generating collective that's reflective of life itself, I just want to try to go there with
I'd like to bring up that point about have to or get to, or and we're using those words that as if it's not true now, and we are doing it. And it's like I held up a hand that had about 4 different seeds in it, and because every morning I will either have picked up some seeds along the way somewhere, and then I distribute them elsewhere. And a friend of mine who oftentimes will walk in the morning with me will say, you're Johnny Appleseed, but this isn't going to do anything. I said, well, it does one of 3 things. It's going to feed the earth, it's going to feed an animal, or it's going to grow. One of those 3 things. So if any one of those 3 things is good.
Yeah.
And I'm doing it in a place that doesn't have those kind of plants. And if it grows, we have some, this one happens to be a lemon, so on, and this one happens to be a palm tree, and this one happens to be a yucca, and I'm not sure what this one is, but that's, the 4 that I picked up today. And the little things are all things that anybody can do. And as we do the things like not buying all this or that, like I am so upset about, my son has about 23 different tennis shoes because he works at REI. He does triathlons and rock climbs and does all that good stuff. But he's got all these frickin' shoes. And then my wife has to have her shoes, and so on. And why do we need all these things? I'm happy having a few sets of underwear during the week. you know, and or changing my shirt, you know, a few times a week or whatever. So what is it that we can do? Some of us do simple things, some of us do more. And this satsang that we have gets to be able to spread in other times of our week, because each of us has another cadre of friends, like neighbors. I have locked and loaded neighbors up the street. So how do we get to play with them? We get to play with them where they can hear. And so here we are.
Yep.
What are we doing? What are we here for? What are the four of us? If we could, yeah, that there's something that wants to happen in terms of weaving.
Yes.
Not in terms of this and then this and then this. I mean, we can start out there, but
But it takes time to weave too, Ani.
okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm being impatient. All right. So call me on it. Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, it takes some time we've been together, the three of us have been together for at least a year, maybe more. So it
that's
takes a
very
while to, yeah,
Inviting into something that
yeah.
that
So,
wants
it's
and
like
more participation, but it's something that we invite you into to become part of. That
part
we
of the stew.
Yeah.
We're
thank,
creating a great stew.
thank you.
Yeah.
Oh,
You can tell I'm hungry.
so
I actually had breakfast this morning.
I
Amazing.
haven't had breakfast yet.
I did that.
we get this is called the peace salute. We get to see the world as it is. It's all love. Every bit of it is love. And then we say, Zoom peace, and we throw the love out to the world. And what does love bring? It brings peace. So that's the peace salute, Zoom peace. Thank you. I'll see you as soon as I can.
Okay. Bye-bye. Thanks for coming, Kurt.
Love meeting you, Ani, and I already obviously know Kathryn, so I'll see you. Thanks for hosting the great satsang.
thank
Yep.
you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And so there has to be a willingness to connect where they are at some point in order to take them somewhere else. And so that's going to be a lesson for all of us. As we can, because everybody that's coming are people who are really doing stuff, wanting to do stuff, which means they already have a really strong point of view and a whole worldview that they've built up around that and languaging for that. And so we connect at the nature piece. So my hope is bringing more of their nature understanding forward is going to be where we'll begin to really see fits, because when we stay in the model we built, it's just really hard to get out of it, and it's really hard for other people to see or hear, which is why I don't talk about my model a whole lot, because you have to come into it, you have to be there with me in it in order to take it back into your space. And that's what the classes are for, is to begin to spend enough time with what I'm doing so that you can see the fit and we can bring it forward. But everybody has their own thing. I mean, I have great affinity for joy stuff. I'm not quite sure why, but I've done work in prisons and that kind of stuff. So I really have an affinity for her work. And Kurt and I spent decades with Muktananda together. So we have that shared thing. We didn't relate much there at all, but we were very conscious of each other, but we never related. He was one of the in circle. I was never one of the in circle. I didn't want to be one of the in circle. That's a whole other thing. I didn't want to go there. So it's just, yeah.
My thing is bringing us together in spirit.
Yeah.
And spirit, I mean, individual spirit, you know, not trying to be like something that somebody knows, but actually to, I don't know, it's nature's process.
Well, and weaving is a really good term. So you're really good at that. So yeah. So yeah. So just hang in there.
Okay. Yeah.
And don't get frustrated that it's not like it used to be, because it'll be like that for a while.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I love a challenge. Capacity.
Yeah. Yeah. We've had quite a few people. The regenerative leadership is really being attractive. So I'm getting a lot of people who are joining the network for that. And I'm hoping they're going to take the webinar. So I'm putting that together. And that's just a justification for why you should pay attention to regenerative leadership. And then there's going to be a course in October that's going to talk about what the framework is. What kinds of things are we looking at to be effective in regenerating from a leadership perspective? And then there's a training, but that's not till next year.
Would you like assistance that I could provide?
Yes, I'm always open to help. I mean, believe me, and it's getting more and more necessary. So sure, anything you want to do, anything that works for you.
Co-create. I've been seeing co-creating with you for a long time, and just allowing it to evolve however it does. But I trust and love and believe in you and what you're doing. So it's easy for me to offer my own gifts into that.
Well, and that helps me. If you see something that needs to be done and say, I can do it, that works much better, because there's so many things that need it. And a lot of it is really pedantic, stupid stuff, you know. And so that there will be people who like to do that, and that's fine. So just if you can just notice and see, because I love your stepping up during our talks. I mean, that's really great. That's gonna, because you're different than I am. So it's a nice, yeah, you know.
And ending that wants to happen.
Yes. Yeah.
Nature blends.
Yeah, but we have to really understand nature to be blending nature instead of egos.
Yeah. So nice. Blending nature instead of egos. Oh, that's lovely. Switching identity.
Yes.
The whole thing is, it's like identity, if we could develop an autopoetic identity as nature herself, as nature
Yes. But we have to start seeing and talking, and that's what the principles are all about. That's what all that value stuff is all about. But it's not easy to bring into a conversation, and you can do it in simple ways, because there's like 16 of them. So you can pick any topic and begin to explore whatever you're curious at in that frame. How does that inform what you're doing?
Love to have a session with you where you take me through all of that so that I may become more familiar with it and see how you're weaving, what you're blending, what the parts are, and where you want to go with it.
Yeah, well, and some of that's still in development. It's not like I can just like,
Okay.
you know, I'm building the PowerPoints. Let me put it that way.
As you share the essence of it with me, I may be able to add something.
Well, you know, I mean, I have shared it before. It doesn't seem to have connected. Let me see. No, let me see if I can bring it up again. I mean, it's and I've got a person I'm going to be talking to. I'm kind of excited. She does animated videos. And so I'm going to see if we can't do something, a couple of really quick animated videos. Business graphics. I need somebody to organize me. Yeah. So let me share my screen. I mean, this is it in a nutshell. This is as succinct as it can possibly be, but it really needs so much explanation because everything is so deep.
Well, I just took a screenshot, so I'll give it my attention and let it talk to me.
Okay. So the four intents are commitment, continuity, resilience, and evolution. That's what nature intends. So it's a commitment to life to make it happen, the continuity to keep it here, the resilience in difficulty, and then the learning that leads to evolution and different changes.
I can't hear at that level yet of definition. Would you go to each one as a sacred something and share its essence with me?
So
what happens in your own body with commitment?
So with commitment, all actions create the conditions that support life. So the focus is on evoking life in everything around you, to be sensitive to what that self that you're engaging with, whether it's a plant or a person, needs in order to thrive.
Can't hear anymore yet because I'm back at the beginning of the essence of commitment and your statement. All actions create the conditions that support life. I don't believe that yet. I may never, because I don't think that's true, that all actions create conditions that support life.
What you're doing with all actions is saying, well, I know actions that don't create the conditions that support life, so that's not a true statement.
Actions that do not support life happen all the time.
That's correct, but that's not how life lives. When you look at the cells in your body, when they do that, we get cancer. But the cells in your body always create the actions and so do plants. They create the actions that support life. Everybody else does that.
Talking about nature, but I mean, this frame.
This is how, in my view, the planet works. This is how life happens. Now, we as humans in the Garden of Eden decided to say, I think maybe I'll pay attention to me. I'm not going to pay attention. That's the shift that we have to unshift.
Right.
And so everybody does this, but we choose not to often. So if we shifted, if we changed so that all our actions created the conditions that support life, what would happen? That's why it's here. So you can begin to think and discern, is the action you're taking supporting life?
But as you have presented it here, of saying all actions create you're totally erasing the effect of human-centric thinking and human-centric actions.
That's the point.
Human actions do not create conditions.
That's correct.
Okay, but you need to break that down here, because you're saying all actions. And
now you always talk to me about how your language is important.
Right.
So I am saying all our actions must create the conditions that support life.
That's not what you wrote here.
Because that's not how life lives. Life doesn't must. They don't have to. They've never abdicated that responsibility. We have.
we are a species, the new immature species on Earth that needs to hear all human that all human actions do not create conditions.
That's
Nature
correct.
creates conditions that support life, but we have to evolve. Help us evolve.
That's how we help us. So what I'm hearing is this interesting tension between Ani telling me how important language is and how I always need to create what needs to exist, and then admonishing me for not saying that it doesn't work. And I can appreciate that when I do longer spiels. I talk about, we're the only species that doesn't do this. Life does this. This is how life, I'm saying how life works. I'm not talking about what doesn't work. I'm only talking about what does work here, because you need to see clearly that that is what makes success happen. And if you're not doing it, you're undercutting your own capacity, because life wants you to create the conditions that support life, because she wants life to continue. We need to have that commitment. We don't yet.
And when I was in the forest, when I was in the forest, and I just stood before the trees, and I said, what is our part? Why did you make us? And what came was to partner.
Yeah.
To partner. So I mean, so
Bridged partnership.
yeah. And it's partnership with nature.
Yes.
He, as a new, young, immature species that nature wants to mature,
Right.
having this dialogue in that framework, we need to become conscious of our participation with nature, and all of our actions do not create conditions. And so we
need to know that's true, so we can begin to discern when we don't do that.
Yes,
that needs to be top of mind always.
I agree, and your languaging of this does not help that happen. All conditions create the conditions. I mean, all actions. Who? It's all nature. It's nature.
Yes.
It creates the conditions, but
these are Earth's values. These are not our values. These are Earth's values.
I agree with that. I just want the differentiation here between human actions, that human actions will become conscious and in alignment with nature. And
yeah,
it's important.
Yes.
It's the word conscious and alignment, some kind of way to weave.
Well, and that's the key to help people discern whether that's true. Are your actions creating conditions that support life? You can always ask yourself that question. When you get mad at somebody, sometimes anger is needed. Sometimes it's absolutely right, because you're creating the conditions. You cannot diss me. You cannot not value me. I should be angry when you don't do those kinds of things. On the other hand, when you're not doing what I tell you to, and I'm mad from an ego perspective, that does not create the conditions that support life. We need to discern those things. We need to be able to catch ourselves and ask ourselves, what do I do? And if I've done something that doesn't create the conditions that support life, how do I manage that? How do I shift that back into life affirming? I mean, if you just do that for the rest of your life, we'll probably be fine. Frankly.
the languaging on commitment, I think would be shifted comfortably for me to just say all our, own it, because I mean, all of our actions do not create conditions.
Right.
And you saying all actions includes everything, all. And
Well, it's true, but that is true. Of all of the other selves on the planets, their actions do that. But I hear what you're saying, and I'll think about it. I hear what you're saying. I've not made this personal because this is Earth talking. It's not me talking. And from her perspective, she says all actions. I mean, that's what she does. That's who she is. So these are her values. These are not my values.
All Earth's actions, all nature's actions. But
and we're nature.
Human has been put here as an agent to do something, and we're not mature yet. And
well,
so it's our responsibility to.
If we do that, we will see what our agency is called to do. See, we're not looking with those eyes. We're looking with human eyes. We're looking with ego eyes. So if we look with life's eyes, we will see our gift. We will see how we add to it. We have to play the same game. We're not playing the same game. That's the game.
Okay, I think what just came to me now, all autopoetic actions create the conditions. And we are autopoetic, but we don't know we're autopoetic. We just have a human framework and we think in human terms, and that's what's got to change so that all our.
How would you change it?
Autopoetic just keeps banging in here because autopoetic is self-making.
Right. So
self-making.
so
We don't have nature identity yet as human beings. We think human-centrically rather than autopoetically as the being of nature that we are.
right. So how do we change it?
By having this conversation. And to find a language for it.
Well, and know that people are at different states and have different understandings. So there's never ever going to be one thing that just does for everybody, I don't think. But
co-creation right now, and I love that.
Yeah.
And your frame is beautiful. And if we can
I want to give it motion. I want to give it motion. I want to give it motion so people can see the flow and see how things are interrelated. So I'm hoping this lady who does animation will be able to help me with that at some point.
But to get the essence and understanding,
be
able to language it, that she can animate it. But that's the stage we're at now, because we can't say all actions create the conditions, blah, blah. All what action? All who actions? And
that's a discussion, though. That's a discussion that should generate, because that is the place to begin to learn how to discern. So, okay, if so, all actions don't. So how do you know? How do you know? How do you said that, and
all
if they're human, well, it's not all human actions, because some human actions do create the conditions that support life.
And making that distinction is important. And it's only our consciously life itself, consciously autopoetic, consciously creative, that we can consciously choose to create the conditions conducive to life.
Right.
And so just being able to find the language for that in this wonderful frame, because what we're after is is the evolution of humanity.
Right.
That we're the species, everything else is involved. Everything else on Earth is our ancestor that is more evolved than we are. We're the only species
In
that's not-
different ways. In different ways. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we still have our gift, and our gift is ours. It's not anybody else's.
Yeah, we're on. Nature wants us to evolve. I mean, we're trying, but we have.
So that goes to the bottom one that says humans are intrinsic.
The bottom one.
Under commitment, there are 4, and the bottom one is humans are intrinsic.
Yeah, but what does that mean? I mean, I know what you're saying, and yes, but
It means that we are intrinsic to all actions, create the conditions that support life, that we are active in managing the integrity of the whole from a conscious place, and that we can engage in right relationship as the way to create the conditions that support life.
then put humans are intrinsic first, above all actions created.
No, because we're not first. We're a part of it. What's first is that all actions, because that we can manage. If we do that, we will see how we're intrinsic. That's what will show us that.
It's not true that all actions create the conditions, because humans are on Earth, and humans don't always create actions that support.
That's absolutely right. And you're refusing to give up the fact that we have to give that up. We have to become Earth-centric. So if you're coming from an Earth place, then all actions, including all human actions, will create the conditions that support life. That's where we have to be.
Our identity has to change to
Yes.
from human young upstart to autopoetic. We need an autopoetic identity. We need to recognize ourselves as nature, like everything in nature is, and we don't yet.
Yes.
Identity is the issue here.
Yes.
So can you add identity somewhere there, or weave identity, because we do not have an autopoetic identity. We don't know we're autopoetic. When we do that, then all you're saying is true.
See, this is the conversation I wanted to have, because that is, for me, the connection to agency and that identity, because if you're still doing it to make you feel good, it just doesn't fit into the whole. That's the bridge that needs to be built there.
When we were with a while back, Seed and Spark, and the principles, nature's principle, life principles. The first one is identity.
Right.
And since that time, I have been so aware that central to our evolution is our identity. And it's an identity with nature. It's an identity as nature. My identity is autopoetic. It's not Jackie Martin or Ani Ahavah or anything else like that. My who I am is nature, and I am autopoetic. I'm self-making. Each of us is. All of life is. The grass is. So getting that in to our consciousness to identify as nature is essential in moving forward to evolve our species.
I agree wholeheartedly.
So we just have to figure out how to do that, or allow.
Well, and I'll tell you where my mind is going. See, there's something rich in the discussion, and people are really afraid to engage in the discussion. And that's been one of my cautions about putting this out. It's not to become a series of things you remember and then you punish each other for not doing. That's not the point. The point is to engage in the discussion, to say, well, if nature does this, then how do we fit? What is that for us? How can I begin to live from that place? And we can support each other from living in that place, because sometimes we notice things about each other that we don't see about ourselves. So when there's a group commitment to using this frame as a way of discerning and thinking about appropriate actions, then together you can have discussions like this to begin to see more deeply into what that really looks like in application, instead of making people bad and wrong for not doing whatever it is.
I think this frame is frame number 2. Frame number 1 is back at Seed and Spark when we were going over the principles of life: identity, relationship, process. I forget what the 6 are, but I can pull them back up.
I can too.
But those are the first. That's the first frame. This is the second frame, because we'll understand that all will identify as nature, as autopoetic.
I'm losing places to write this. I think you're right. I think that's good. That's been something that's kind of bugged me. So, and so when I think about the training, that is part of the systems understanding that is so key. And that's why I've hung on to the values piece, because I can really talk systems with the values. And I've got people have lived experience that resonates with that. Because values, you don't see them. They're amorphous. They're beliefs kind of things. And yet we act from them. We create our worlds from them, or don't, depending on whether we actually live them or not. But what's important is that they're systems. And when you understand that systemic aspect, you can see the self-creation of fear and protection to use the protective value set that generates that structure. And it's coherent with that. It's a perfect model for making you safe. If you're unclear about how to do that, you want somebody who does know to help you. And that's what that set is all about. You want somebody big and brave and bold who's going to take care of you. So if you're fearful and you go into that state, that's the lens you look at the world through. If, on the other hand, you're feeling good and strong about yourself and you want to express and you want other people to see who you are, you naturally get into the effective value set, where it's about honesty and about engaging with others and showing how wonderful you are and getting them to buy that, to agree with you. But now we're in a different space. We're trying to keep life alive on the planet, and it has a whole different frame. So I can use those structures and the systems understanding I think, to help people see how that is expressed in these intangibles that really control our lives. And then you can apply them to tangibles. That's kind of where I've been with all of this. And the leadership piece gives a justification for it, a reason why you would want to act like this. And when we have leadership as a rule, it's to do something. It doesn't really matter what. You can have a grand agenda. You can have a philosophical agenda or a political agenda, or an effective value set agenda of expression and big and bold and wonderful and more. And then you're going to lead to make those things happen. But here we've got to lead to keep life on the planet, to make life happen. That's a whole different frame. That's a very different way of engaging others and engaging with the world. The context is totally different. So it's, yeah.
I'm reminded right now of Lynn Margulies in her book Symbiosis, saying that humans ain't gonna destroy life on Earth, okay? And she said that Earth is a tough bitch, and humans are upright weeds. And so, and I'm in total agreement that all we can do is destroy the life support system under our feet. I mean, all we can do. I mean, we're going to stop life, no matter what we do, because we'll kill ourselves before that.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So if we don't want that, then what's the option?
To me, I have stopped trying to move forward in development of my understanding and knowledge according to how I can teach people. You know, I have stopped that. I am totally into who I am. I am totally into the autopoetic being that I am and enlivening my own system as an autopoetic force of nature.
Yep.
You know? And so rather than trying to conceptualize and talk about, I'm animating life as the life that I am. And that's a very different approach, and I really like it because it feels good, and it seems to generate good energy. It generates mine, and it's a different approach to a conceptual approach to.
Well, I can't say I'm at the age and stage where I could cheerfully do what you're doing. I could say that same thing about me, and I have resisted that because I don't feel personally connected. It feels like I'm withdrawing from everything else, and I don't want to do that. So if I'm going to be engaged, I have to be engaged at the same level I am. I can't be engaged at the stupid level because that's not engaging. That's death.
Oh no, because you're still in the Zoom room with them. You're still on the call, but you're an animated being, an autopoetic being.
Yes.
A being that's turning your cells on by the thoughts that you think and the emotioning that happens around that.
That's right. And that's how this happens. If I'm not doing this, I don't feel that.
If you're not doing what?
If I'm not teaching or engaging in discussion or sharing my understanding, I don't feel that excitement and that liveness.
But you can do both at the same time.
Well, I do. That's called self-care.
Just self-care. Yeah, that's first and foremost foundational. But beyond self, I'm just saying I experience. I mean, I've got really good self-care and I animate myself by the thoughts that I think from the understanding that I have of myself as an autopoetic being.
I get that.
Okay?
But what's your point?
That I think my point is.
I mean, how do we co-create from that space? It
would enliven us all. It enlivens us.
Well, in my mind, we are both doing the autopoetic thing for ourselves. I am doing it because I need that engagement. I keep hearing you back away from that engagement and saying you don't need it, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But then I don't know what we're doing.
I show up every time to everything that's
Yes, you do. But and that's good, and I appreciate it. And I still need to build stuff, which means there needs to be more in this space doing things in their own way. And I'm looking for people like that. So I am putting it out and we'll see who plays. I don't know. I mean, people may come and listen to me and go, that's fine, but I'm doing this. Or that's okay, but I like who I am. I don't feel like I need to think like the planet. I can use this maybe. People are different. Everybody's going to have their different response. I don't control that. There's nothing I can do about it. All I can do is put out what I think would really make a difference if people took it to heart and became connected to these ideas in a way that they become, in your words, an identity, which is perfect because that really has to happen. And when that happens, then we will hear what the planet is telling us and we will know what the next step is. We don't need to know anything but the next step. We just have to keep doing the next step appropriately. That's all we have to do. And we'll find our path through that, whatever that is. But if we want to stay on this planet, we better play her game. Because if we're not playing her game, we will not be here. It's very simple.
I agree.
And as a species, we may not make it anyway, because it still takes a whole bunch of us, to play, to stay. There's a lot of us are going to leave, but there has to be some, at least two left to carry it on. So I don't know.
It all within.
Yeah, and I think it is, for me, it's a magical, revelatory, exquisite space to be in, because we don't know what will happen. And when we partner with, when we begin to live like this, we've never lived like this, so we have no idea what that's going to look like. If we can live like this, that's going to be amazing. I think that's the fruition of the experiment we are, that we will take our rational mind and submit it to the dictates of life and use it to enhance life. That's magical. We have taken it off in a whole different track, and that doesn't serve her, and we're not going to be here if we keep doing that. And we can insist. I've got a wonderful, in fact, part of, I think, what I'm going to do with the webinar, if we have time, I've got this wonderful thing written by this group that's all into being regenerative and all of that, about how we're going to make meat out of protein, or we're going to make protein so we have protein to eat. We don't need to kill animals, and so that will put us back into the it will eliminate the overshoot, but it doesn't connect us to life. And so they've got all these things that are, all this technology that's coming up that's going to solve all these problems without dealing with the planet at all. The whole point of their article is that we can outthink the planet and make it work for us without having to deal with the planet. And that's just not true. It's just stupid. It's just stupid. Anyway, to have people read that and say, what's wrong with this? What do you see? Do you think this is nirvana? Is this the thing we're going to, or are there problems with this approach? What do you think? To get people to begin to discern, to see, be able to articulate what those issues are. Because if you can't speak them, if you can't say, oh my God, this is human-centric, then you don't know, but you still have to know what else is there. Okay, so we're not human-centric, then what? So life-centric is, for me, the path that life will teach us. We just have to hang on to life. We have to act like life. We have to understand how life works. These are all really very biological kinds of things. They're not outside of biology. And so, yeah, understanding that biology needs certain things because we're in a body. And we should love that instead of trying to get out. I mean, Jeremy Lent was just magical in his understanding of how mankind at some point decided, well, gee whiz, the mind is so great. The mind is where we should focus. We don't need the body. The body, it's really the mind. And so everybody's doing the mind stuff, and we've done mind stuff for centuries, and look where it's got us.
Consciousness is a product of the body.
Yes. It's to help the body survive, that we need. Embodiment is part of life. I mean, consciousness is part of life, but consciousness wants the body in order to manifest. Otherwise, it's just out there, There are certain things that can only happen in the body. The emotions only happen in the body.
Right.
So we've got to be here before we can be anywhere else.
I agree.
And we're just not here. Yeah.
And which means it starts with me.
Yeah. It starts with everybody. Yeah.
So that's the responsibility, to start with me, to start with
Absolutely.
That's the only way that.
Well, but I would also say that there is this issue of the warming planet. And so we can't pretend that isn't there. So you can't just start with you. You've also got to pay attention to your environment. And you have to engage with your environment in some kind of way to stay here, to keep your body functioning.
I am in relationship with my environment, and what happens in my environment starts with me.
It does start with you, but at the same time, I would say that because the planet is so close to, is working very hard to find a new rut to be in, that the more we can actively minimize the heat, the better our species is going to be, because our bodies do not tolerate too much heat. So if we want to stay embodied on this planet, we got to work on both things. We got to work on us, and we got to work on the environment.
Yeah.
And that means, for at least the foreseeable future, paying attention to the biology of the planet in a way we've never paid attention to the biology of the planet before. And really understanding how to cool her, which is possible, perhaps, if we do things before it gets too hot. Once it gets too hot, it will truly be out of our control. And then I would think we're probably toast, because we just don't do well when it gets really hot. That's not how our biology works.
I remember something I read somewhere, in like the Ice Age was when dinosaurs were here, but humanoids were beginning, and it was the temperature.
It was mammals, yeah, not humanoids, mammals.
To determine the extinction of the dinosaurs and the continuation of the hominoids because of the temperature.
You might want to read the article on the network that I put up the other day about dinosaurs didn't die or something like that. It's in the Discovery, please. You can find it.
Okay.
Because they're rethinking a whole lot of stuff. The more we learn, the more we see we didn't see the whole picture.
Okay.
And so it has given new insights and things. So, yeah.
Anyway, and this is unfolding. I mean, all of life is unfolding.
Yeah.
So I appreciate where we are and where because
and I happen to believe that our souls are immortal. So if we cannot embody on this planet, we will find another planet to embody. We will have to, because that's just the way it works. But I think we would learn a ton as a species if we stayed here, and if we figured out how to stay here. It's not necessary. It's not necessary for our species to evolve, that we stay here. We will evolve anyway. That's just what life does. But it would be a much bigger, quicker step if we stayed, if we could figure out how to stay.
Okay, that's probably enough for now. And it's taped if we want to go back to it.
That's true.
Yeah. And I appreciate that. I appreciate you and the forum that you've created for me to play in.
Oh, I'm glad you're playing. I really am.
Good.
Yeah.
It's
You bring a lot.
it's the best. It's the best forum that I have to play in. So thank you.
You're welcome.
All
And
right.
okay. I may cut that out and make it a little blip.
Okay.
And Robert did a thing the other day too. And it's just nice for other people to hear that it's been valuable for somebody, so.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. Those are the kinds of things I can need help with if you have an interest, but it's not your forte. So.
Not the mechanistic stuff.
Right.
I mean, I can, but it takes too much time away from
I
life.
appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Bless you.
You too. Bye-bye. Thanks for being here.